So over the last few months, for some reason, most of my guests have been from Tennessee, whether it be some crazy haunted hospital or whooping and wood knocks in the woods. Well, loyal listeners, tonight's no different. I've got Squatch and Holler himself, Mr. Roger Williams, is with us tonight. He's in the green room. He's getting ready to come in. He's dressing up. His makeup lady is putting powder puffs on his he can't say anything as I got him muted right now. Welcome back to the Caffeinated Cryptid podcast. I am your host, of course, Mr. Bobby Dizzle. This is a caffeinated adventure through the world of Bigfoot, cryptids, and all aspects of the paranormal, even UFOs. And I'll even toss in some science sometimes, because sometimes I just got to talk about dinosaurs. Real quick, before we get started, what's everybody drinking tonight? I got my last white monster. I was up last night late as hell at a comedy show, and I need all the help I can get to get through this. But once we get to talking about Squatch, I think I'll be okay. But enough about that. Enough about how big of a poon I am. Quick field notes. The show airs live on YouTube Sundays and Thursdays, and I'm booked solid for months with some killer guests. So be sure to subscribe and share. Don't miss a thing. The podcast is on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. What did I just click? Oh, shit. Spotify, and a ton of other audio apps on your phone. Find all that at bobbydizzle.com. Now let's get to Squatch and Holler. Squatch and Hodger. Roger Williams is with us. Roger, you're finally on the show. We've been talking about it forever. What's going on?
First thing I got to say is I have to do my own makeup. I'm not that big yet. So
you ain't got your handlers yet?
No.
I'm gonna make that. I'm gonna start. I had one guy on here ask what his OnlyFans was, and he about choked because he wasn't ready for it. I said, "Tell us your YouTube, your OnlyFans." He's like, "Why did you say OnlyFans?"
Well,
that man has 100,000 followers, and told me that was the funniest thing anybody's ever said to him.
I've just got my Jolly Roger cup for tonight with just regular old coffee. So
yeah, I was gonna make coffee, and I'm like, no, you know what? Let's go to distance. Let's bury the needle. Let's get the soup. Let's get the super surge.
Oh man, yeah, it's I'm glad to be on. I try to I don't even know where to start. I haven't watched any kind of podcast up to about 6 months ago, and I have watched so many, and sometimes I have to take a break. But it's just so interesting to listen to people.
It's overwhelming.
It is.
And I'm counting on people to. There's a thing called pod fading, and podcasts usually go about 6 months and they give up because nobody gets any traction. And so I'm waiting on people to pod fade around me. I'm just going to rise to the top.
There you go.
Low consistency, just like a grandma gear and a log truck. Just
yep.
It's going to be me.
The old turtle.
Oh yeah, that's what I am. Slow and steady. That's all you got to do. I'm booked out till what? I think I pushed half of September out today, so it pushes me.
That's crazy. Mid
football season, but I got to slow down because I got people like you who I want to get on, but I'm like shit, and I forget. You forget to have you, and you keep coming back. And I talk to you, and I talk to Mike, Red Creek Mafia, all the time. Like, I got to get you on one day, and a month will go by. I'm like, well, he probably hates me.
Well, and everybody understands because it's kind of fluid too. You'll have probably people that want to come on and something happened. I had to cancel one time, and I had a legit reason. I tested positive for COVID that day, and so I was like, "Oh man, I don't think I can make it." And what happened? We talked about today about things working like they're supposed to. And when I did go on this certain podcast, it was the perfect timing. And, I won't get into it, but
it works out.
Yeah. And
some of the best ones.
The first one I watched of yours, the lady was talking about, I don't know if she was talking about the hospital in Fayetteville, Lincoln County.
Oh, Sin. Yeah.
Yeah. I liked that one. That was one of my first ones that I watched. But
that was one where I sat around and was like, this is a cool podcast. I should watch it. I'm like, shit, I'm the host.
Do you ever go back and watch after you do a show?
I have my favorites. Whenever there was one, it was right before I started doing this real big. Like I say, real big as far as I go. It was the guest was Amy Weirs. It was one of my coworkers' moms, and about 6 months before that, I just happened to discuss how I like that kind of content. I like that kind of podcast, and the coworker said, my mom used to ghost hunt, and told a story. I'm like, what? And so we're in the middle of COVID, building this building out, and she calls her mom. She's in Michigan, and I'm sitting on the floor, Indian style, or cross-legged, sorry, and listening to it like I'm a 5-year-old kid. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. And so I had her on. I got all the equipment and built everything back. And I went back and watched that several times. That's how I realized I had to get better at it, because I sounded like I was scared to death.
Oh man,
but that was most of my favorite episodes.
And for years, I've had things happen, and I to this day, I'm 52. I have no idea why I couldn't,
Co-host Roger.
I don't know.
She called me Shangy Girl. I think she's from California.
Oh, okay.
My mini fans. What's going on, folks? We got Wendell. Wendell's on Sunday night. He's got some podcast stories, and he's got a game camera picture of a mountain lion.
Yeah, that was one of the first things I was called crazy on, because I had seen it some there at close to my mom and dad's place, and we all saw them. And I wrote for this little small country paper one time for about a year, and I kept getting these stories. And so I finally did a story. I called TWRA and all, and they kept giving the same answers. Well, I was called crazy over the mountain lions because not many people had seen them.
Mm-hmm.
So I can just imagine what they're talking about now that I finally started sharing some of my Bigfoot stories and ghost stories, which I haven't shared a lot of ghost stories. If I do tonight, it'll probably be some of the first or second time telling some of them. But
speaking of that, I need to write that down. We were mentioning the Chapel Hill.
Oh yeah,
Chapel Hill lights. What about I wanted to ask about whenever I get a Bigfoot person on that actually has a gifting site. I want to ask how you pick your gifting site.
Look,
that's what I always want to know. Like, how'd you pick that rock?
Well, I have no idea. I'm new at all that. I'm learning. I've had experiences, but I'm learning in reverse, kind of. And I'm meeting all these people that are explaining things to me, and we've been going out. How I decided to gift was what I had available, and we carried a couple apples and an orange out there, and I thought we made something mad that day.
Oh yeah,
and my son was with me, and at one point in the video, it was such an intense 5 seconds that I said some words I'm not proud of, and when I shared the video with folks, I'm like, please disregard this. Try to focus on what's going on. It caused me to say this. And I wasn't kind of scared. I was scared because it was just like 40 to 50 yards just out of sight, but it was so clear and so loud. The iPhone, it just doesn't do the sound and volume justice.
Mm-hmm.
But we had made something mad. It had tossed a boulder that was maybe 40 to 60 pounds. We heard that. And it was so close that not only did we hear like it slamming wood against wood or whatever, we could actually hear, because you can see in the video, I'll be like, wait, hold on. I hear something. And what it sounded like was it reaching down and picking up a log and dragging it to it and then picking it up and either throwing it. And so my son, he's 26. He's not scared of much, but when we got finished, we got to the truck, we plugged it in, we turned it all the way up, and I said, we got it. It's not very clear, but we got it. We're not crazy. And he looked at me, he said, I'm not doing that again.
He said he wouldn't go back.
Well, he'll go back to the place, but he's not going to go back to that area where we were at. And, we grew up in the woods. I grew up in the woods. He did pretty much too. So people see pictures of, other Bigfoot hunters, which I don't think I am, but we might have a pistol. or a shotgun or something. That's totally for the critters that bite folk. You know, I've had skunks get after me that were, you know, crazy, or we got coyotes and stuff like that. It's not necessarily going to kill one, but you know, a good blast in that direction will usually run them off. So they automatically assume, you know, they get offended, like, oh, you're not going to kill a Bigfoot. I'm like, no, you don't understand. But
it's a Remington 1022. I'm not going to kill a Bigfoot anyway.
It pierces ear, maybe, but
yeah, I got 4 shots in this little bitty magazine. Most do that.
Rat shot in a 22, yeah.
22 is always my favorite carry in the woods.
Yeah, you can't go wrong. But you know, if I talk too much, slow me down, because I'm used, like I told you before, we had a store on the interstate, and I used to love to tell stories, and I kept these stories to myself because of obvious reasons. And, and now, I don't know, since I opened up about it, I'll throw it in a conversation just randomly. Hey, you ever seen a Bigfoot? You ever seen a ghost? And I get more response from the ghost side. But if I soften them up with them telling me ghost stories, and then we start talking about the other, you know, it's kind of hard for them to look at me like I'm crazy when they just told me they saw a 3-foot tall evil troll on the way to the bathroom one night standing in the hallway, right? So
there's a lot more of that now than you used to. You used to couldn't get anybody to tell a ghost story. Now it's like, I used to see my grandma all the time when I was little.
Yeah.
But nearly everybody.
The houses, there's a house right now in Lewisburg that is it is the first house I remember living in. I was about 2 or 3 years old, and I have an amazing long-term memory, but if something happened today, you know, it kind of struggle with it, but I would not step in that house for absolutely any reason. But I would like to talk to the new owner. I mean, that was 48 years ago, probably, or 49. And I would like to talk to the people that live there just to see if they experienced some of the same things that we did, you know. So, but
how long did you live there?
I only lived there probably a year and a half. And I'm that's young, but the reason I remember some of the things, I had a reoccurring nightmare about 3 times a week, and it plays like when I tell the story, it plays like a movie in my head. It was terrifying, and it wasn't monsters or anything like that. It was I remember when I would start having the dream, I knew how it was going to go and how it was going to end, and every time I woke up just in time, right? And the old classic. I remember going in. I had a playroom.
What was the dream?
Well, so okay.
No, he was hanging.
Yeah. Okay. So, so the way
I've had one. I'll preface it. I've had one recently too. That's been weird. It's not scary or anything. It's just weird. So I was just interested in what happened to you.
But you know, when you have a dream, maybe one time you wake up or whatever, or you remember it halfway through the day, you say, man, that's weird. But when you have one, you know, 2-3 times a week or whatever for, I don't know, months, it gets burned in. So, and there's the next part of the story, is what scared me the worst. But okay, so I would go to sleep. The dream started, you know, I'm young, really, really young. And the dream started, I would be looking down at myself asleep. Now, at that age, there wasn't any drones, or, you know, how would I know what I would look like and my room would look like, you know, from an elevated, you know, bird's eye view, whatever. So, and I would be looking at myself, and then I would be floating. I would go into my mom and dad's room, and then they were asleep. And this is weird, but it's a kid's mind. There would be a couple goldfish up in there with me. And then I felt the presence to my right. I turned, and there was this blue-eyed, blonde-headed kid with the bowl cut. And he would, you know, let me get here. He would wave and smile, you know, and then we would go along and just through the house. And then all of a sudden it would switch to where my left hand was in my bedroom, which was pitch dark. I couldn't see my hand. my right hand was in the living room, and my dad, instead of me having his hand, he had a dish towel, and I'm holding onto this dish towel, and this kid has me by the wrist, and he's saying, "Come play with me, come play with me," and he's pulling, and my hand starts slipping off of this dish towel, and I'm not screaming, I was terrified, and then right as I would slip, and my dad was saying, "Don't let go, don't let go," and right as it would come out of my hand, I'd wake up every time, sweat. I would run to my mom and dad's bedroom crying, and they'd, pop me on the diaper or whatever and make me go back to bed. So
yeah, so it was like pulling on you, trying to take you in, and you just.
That was the terrifying part, and for years I had no idea. There was a lot of things happening in that house, and they could tell you more because they were older, but we had a Halloween party, and I was always terrified of ghost stories and stuff like that. My mom, she always liked to scare us playing, but Jaws scared me so bad it took me like 10 years to figure out that there was a shark in the movie, because I was, like
Jaws.
But so anyway, they said, "Hey, let's tell ghost stories." Well, I'm out. I'm like 13, 14 years. I'm out. I don't want to be out in the dark listening to ghost stories, And oh, come on, let's tell some. And I was about to go play with other kids when somebody said, I think it was one of my aunts, looked at my mom and said, "Hey, tell that story about that haunted house you guys lived in where that little boy accidentally hung himself."
What?
And I'm like, exactly. That's what. So, I get this. I said, what? Where was
what?
That? Yeah. And in front of the bowling alley on the hill by the water tank where y'all live. Now I almost melted. I got goosebumps right now telling this.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff I love. That correlation.
That aha, oh crap. Now I've got to hear the story, right? So the story was, and his picture was in the paper because they knew what he looked like. In that house a few years before, that room that was my playroom was also a dark room. It had a bunch of sinks in it. It still had the wire or string where they hung the pictures, and I didn't know what a dark room was, at the time. And they was like, "Yeah, there was a photographer that lived there, blah blah blah." But the story goes, the boy was playing in that room, and I don't know if it had something to do with those strings or what it was, but he got caught in between a couple of the sinks somehow, and he was about 4 years old, and he died. And I'm listening to this story, and I'm like, nobody is going to believe this shit, right? I'm in the dark, like just with chills, and I said, "Let me ask, do y'all happen to know what he looked like?" "Oh, yeah, his picture was in the paper, and they're talking about him being blonde-headed with the." I said, "Was his hair cut straight up?" "Oh, yeah, yeah." I'm like, so that was even more terrifying now that, but it happened at the right time. I think if I'd have found that out at 6 or 7 years old, I probably would have been in an asylum somewhere, But
how old were you when you found out?
Probably, I'm gonna guess about 13-ish.
Okay, so you had mentality a little bit higher up.
Right. Yeah. And but I'll never forget that moment when, like, because I hadn't told anybody about that dream at all. But there was so much stuff that happened in that house. I mean, doorknobs moved, doors would open. That room that I was in, the playroom, I would run out of there because the temperature would drop, and I could see my breath, and I felt this presence, this feeling. I didn't know what it was, and I would run to my mom. "You need to go back in there and play." I'm like, "It's freezing in there." And we'd walk in, it'd be normal temperature, So, so this stuff started happening. Now, I don't know. Maybe some of the things that's happened to me throughout my life, maybe it started there. I have no idea. But like I told you, I'm not one of these that goes looking for stuff because it scares me, But I'm interested. I will go places. We went to my mom and my wife. We were riding around in it was north middle Tennessee, and we got to Red Bowling Springs. And I'm like, "Hey, That's Thomas house was just on TV. Let's go. And we talked to Cherry, I believe her name was, the owner's wife. She's the owner too. And she showed us the picture of a guest had taken a picture in the mirror, and it was her sister had passed away. It was perfect. And she was, I think the Osborne, no, what was the Jack Osborne? He had a show where they went around and visited. Yeah. And I never did actually see the episode, but she was interesting to talk to. But, I'll put myself right at the edge. I'm not going to stay overnight, but, we've been in some places, man, I've got,
that's the one place you can stay overnight.
I know. Right. Yeah. And they
had that scary pool.
Yeah.
That swimming pool out front.
Yeah. She told us the story actually. I thought it looked creepy when we passed it, but she told us a story about somebody drowned, when a kid drowned there, and that's when they shut it down. But there was another story where there was a house fire, and they had doctors, I believe, there at the Thomas house. Maybe there's a doctor, maybe it was, I don't know. But so
I think it might have used to been a hospital.
Maybe it was, and there was a burn victim or something. And I don't know if they took them out to the creek or whatever it was, but this person, I can't remember. But I'm thinking, wow, this place is creepier than, what they showed on the what do you call it, the trailer of the, the thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's my mom loves stuff like that. But until it happens, I got a story.
Until it happens.
Have you ever heard of I know you've heard of Hot Springs, Arkansas. I took my mom on a bucket list trip over there. They have the diamond mines where you can go pay $10, stay all day if you find everything but a diamond. But it's fun, and she wanted to go, and I took her. We stayed overnight. Got up and did that the next morning. It was raining, but we went anyway. We only had a few days. A friend suggested that we go to Hot Springs, and I'm like, okay. I had no idea of the history. The mob, the gambling, the missing people,
That's the Bill Clinton town, isn't it?
It's I'm not going to say anything. But I think, I don't remember who cleaned it up or whatever, but I did
misled people.
But that's pretty good.
That's all I got.
We drove through, and there's a place called the Arlington. You remember, did you ever watch the Tennessee Race Chasers?
Yeah, I love that show.
All right. Do you remember when they would do the lives, and there was Jamie, and there was the redheaded guy, James, and he was like the tech guy, and they would do pre-shows on Facebook and stuff. Well, we got to be buddies on Facebook and everything, and like we went to New Orleans one time, and he told us where all to go or whatever. So they were about to do a live, and we were at the Arlington. We'd had some things happen to us, and I was kind of sending him messages back and forth of what had happened. But we went in there on the 7th floor, and a lot of the mobsters had stayed there, and they had it looked like something out of the Shining, the hallways and the ugly carpet. But then they had this black curtain where they had to shut off and don't go past here. And I started, Googling, and found out that there's stories that there was rooms that had to be shut off, physically nailed shut, because of guests and encounters. We left to go get something to eat, and the Cartoon Network was on, and SpongeBob was playing, and I left the TV on. We came back in after eating, and the little girl at the bar told us, "Oh, you'll be fine as long as you're not staying at the Arlington on the 7th floor." And we're like, "Oh," my mom's like, "Oh my God, that's where we're at," Well, walk in, and SpongeBob's not on. Halloween, the movie's on. And I don't remember what channel.
That's not the same channel.
It's not the same channel. I'm pretty sure. So I didn't say anything to her. I'm like, that's odd. And the remote's in the same spot. So I'm texting a friend, and I'm back against the window, and the bathroom is up close to the door, but it's old tile, so it echoed, And I had, a hat on and was down like this, and I I thought I heard my mom laugh in the bathroom, and it echoed out of the bathroom. And I looked up to say, "What's so funny?" And she's standing right here to my left, and we're in the room by ourselves.
Did she hear it?
The look on her face, she looked at me, and I think she heard something. I've got to confirm if she heard what I heard. So I just continued, and I said, "What's so funny?" Like that. And she said, "That wasn't me. That wasn't me." That came from the bathroom. So that's what I heard. I heard it came from the bathroom. So me being the son, and I had to go check out the bathroom. There's nothing in there. And she didn't sleep that night, but there was some strange things. That place is strange. I didn't mean to go to a haunt. If somebody had told me that it was supposedly haunted, I wouldn't have stayed.
You said I didn't mean to.
I didn't mean to.
I didn't mean to find the most haunted hotel in all of Arkansas.
Yeah, it's got the worst reputation in the whole town, and we just rolled right up in there. And
no wonder there's got vacancy signs out.
Yeah.
The desk clerk Norman was really nice.
Oh my God. She tells that story and she's all like, I want to go do this. I said, no, you don't. I mean, when you get in the middle of it, you about, pushed me out the window and went down with me, so it scares her, but I think she likes the thrill of it. I don't know why it happens. I don't know. It's because if I've always been open-minded, or maybe some of us are just.
You got the gift. There's just people that got it and people that don't.
Well, so my son and I met a Native American Cherokee lady in Cherokee, North Carolina, out on a trail in the middle of nowhere. And her son was about 16, and his wife was probably about the same age, and she was pregnant. And I was what she was giving her direction. I said, "Excuse me, I hate to interfere, but she had gray eyes, is why I stopped, and I'll tell you why. What are you doing?" She said, "We were walking the baby out." I'm like, what is that? Well, anyway, so we got to talking, and I said, "Ma'am," I said, "I have a great grandmother. Her name was Lydia Gray Eyes. She was full-blooded Cherokee. Do you know anything about that?" And this woman looked at me and said, she smiled, and she said, "She's always known who you are." And
I'm freaking out right now. I'm freaking out.
Yeah. And
stretch it out.
My son poker faces this. He's about 16. He doesn't say anything, but when we get to the truck, he said, I can't really say what he said. It's probably the first time I heard him cuss, but he said, "That's weird as AF, but I'm like, don't be saying that." But
wait, so you met the lady in the woods and asked her if she knew your great-great-grandmother?
No, I asked her. I told her when I looked her in the eyes, because people from the South, you look at people and you look, "How you doing? How you doing?" You eye contact. Well, I noticed she had gray eyes, and she was Cherokee, and I started a conversation, and then threw in that my great-great-great-grandmother in the late 1700s was full-blooded Cherokee, and her name was Lydia Gray Eyes. So then that's when she says she's always known who you are, just smiling. And I'm like, oh my God. But
so she meant your grandmother knew who you were.
Yes.
Okay, I was like, who knew what?
I'm sorry.
Had a dangling participle. I was confused.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
But so she starts telling me about the gray-eyed. Now, whether this is true or not, the gray-eyed people are considered to be more spiritual, open to different, things, kind of like, and the stuff I've gone through in my life. And I just took that as maybe that's the reason, but yeah, I think my sister has grayish eyes. So, and I found that on the internet just randomly one day and tied it back to the family. So, but I don't know. I know a lot of people go looking for things. Sometimes I'm drawn to do stuff that I don't know why I do it. Like I told you earlier, my wife and I were watching Skinwalker Ranch, and we just decided on the way to Wyoming to take a detour through Colorado and drive up to the front gate, and
yeah,
just to say we've been there. And that video I sent you, all of our videos and pictures for the whole trip are crisp, nice videos. That video, what they say, what kind of potato did you
Yeah, it looked like a Nokia potato.
Yeah, that's right. And you saw it. I mean, it's just it's blurry. And my only concern about that, one, getting arrested because we were right at the front gate. But two was bringing home a hitchhiker, which they talk about. So we didn't stay just long enough to get a couple pictures and leave. But places like that are kind of intriguing.
A hitchhiker worries me. Even doing these shows, I'm thinking, am I going to tap some kind of gate just being interested in it? Have I done it already? And Skinwalker, like that blurry video tells me you had some kind of effect. Something was up.
Something was up. Maybe, they talk about these signals and everything out there or whatever, and maybe that was it. But it started 2 miles away. And if anybody ever goes out there, I'm gonna give you a warning. About 80 yards before you get to the front gate, the road drops off about a foot, and it's hard to see. It turns gravel just like that, and it will like bust a shock or a tire or something. So be careful.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a rough road. But
imagine that.
Billionaire.
Imagine it being pretty awful out there, even though it is like you think they can maintain the road a little bit better. I mean, I guess they don't want anybody coming out there anyway.
It's sparse. I mean, it's there's a campground next door that I wished I hadn't seen, because now I kind of want to do that. You can go camp, and they'll carry you up on a tour. Like they have the mesa, they have like a hill that you can go up on and see the mesa from there. And I think they have where they go out at night and watch for UFOs or orbs or skinwalkers or whatever. So that's another one of them things that I would like to do, but I'm scared to do. So
is that one of those places with no light pollution? That Utah? Well, I would think it probably is. There can't be a lot out there.
When we were in Moab the night before, it was pretty dark, but it's not like a huge city where we were at. And then you have the Arches National Park that we could almost see the gate from where we were at. But you can go after 5 o'clock. You can go and stay all night and camp out or stargaze or whatever. I've seen some pictures. Like it's amazing. But some of those back roads, we didn't travel much at night because of the animals, really. Because they have a lot of you be running 70 miles an hour and hit a stop gap right in the road, and they'll have free range animals. Be careful. So, but yeah, I would think it's pretty dark out there.
Do they have a cattle guard gate in the road?
Yeah. Anyway.
I've seen ATV trails that they have like a giant ramp in the middle of them. That's just it's a cattle or I say cattle guard. It's a wildlife ramp between the property lines, and it's like it's like a little bit. If I was on a 4-wheeler, I wouldn't want to do it, but you got to go up and over it to cross the property lines
and slow down, and it lets down. Yeah, I'll be.
You couldn't do it in anything bigger than a 4-wheeler. I mean, a side by side, I think it'd bottom out.
I'd be the first one to mess up. I mean, I'd
slide off the side so fast.
I'm not that coordinated. I never was athletic, so it got me into trouble and kept me out of trouble too. So
you're away from them crazy women.
Yeah. I've known a few of those. I like the hat. Does that say wood booger?
Yeah.
That didn't come from Buc-ee's, did it?
No, everything else I own does. It's from one of those ads on Facebook or Instagram. My wife bought it for me. I wear it all my. I was gonna try to be known for an Alabama hat like Bill Dance, but she got me this hat, so I started wearing it.
There you go. I like it better. I ain't gonna say anything. You're good. Fun rivalry.
I don't know what T-Bone's talking about. That is the truth.
He's probably talking about everything he owns from Buc-ee's.
Oh yeah, he is. He hadn't been to Buc-ee's before too long ago. Like, you gotta indoctrinate yourself.
We had a store on the interstate for 28 years. We drove to Buc-ee's 2-3 weekends ago. I have never ever seen anything like that.
I think Buc-ee's is like an enigma.
It's crazy.
It's like seeing like into another dimension.
It's like,
why did I miss this comment?
Like when you watched the old Schwarzenegger films, and they would where they went to Mars, and you see all this futuristic stuff. You know, you're like, did we step
Total Recall?
Yeah, yeah. It's like, did we step through a portal or something? What's going on?
I missed a comment earlier. I guess we were talking. I saw Mr. Duffy said you died in your sleep.
Oh man,
no,
don't be now. Now I got goosebumps all over.
Yeah, he said, "Damn it, Bobby."
Damn it, Bobby. Yeah. I don't know. I just, you know, I had deja vu for a long time, and where it would be, you know, you've had it, or I guess so. People, I've had it a second or half a second or whatever, and you think, wait, I've heard this before. I've seen this. And my longest one, but I had one time that was about 15, 20 seconds. It was so long that I turned to my cousin and I said, this is about to happen. They're about to say this, and this one's about to say that. And I told her about 7 seconds of this conversation between my sister and my other cousin. And they come up the hallway, and everything I said happened. I knew it was going to happen. And I just prayed about that. I don't know what this is. I don't want it. You know.
That deja vu is weird when it happens. What was that?
Yeah.
I've been here before.
Right. And, you know,
for me, it's only about a second, but I can't imagine 7 seconds.
Well, the most of the time, mine's like that too. But this one particular time I had a dream that I was in my cousin's house, my uncle's house, in his bathroom with a pink razor and this crazy look on my face. And so my sister and my cousin come walking up the hall arguing, and they go into the kitchen, knock something off the table, you know, and I wake up and what circumstances would put me in my uncle's bathroom with a pink razor, you know. And about 3 weeks later, my uncle and my parents, they went on a trip, and we stayed at my cousin's house, and I worked for the sheriff's department. I was about 19 years old. I was a jailer, so we had to be clean shaven.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot my razor. And I asked my cousin, I said, hey, do you have a razor? Anybody have one I can use? She thought it was funny. She said, here, this is a new one, and it was pink. And I still hadn't put it together, but when I looked up in the mirror, that's what the look was.
Holy.
The realization. And then I had time to turn to her and tell her what was going to happen for the next, 7 seconds. And it did. So, but it scared me. I don't understand it. I prayed about it. I was like, I don't want this. Please take it. I don't. But it comes back every now and then.
When that comes together, that's got to be a weirdest feeling.
Yeah.
When you realize what happened, like, holy Jesus.
Yeah. Well, I asked the question when I woke up. I said, what circumstances would put me, in a house I hardly ever go to? And so anyway.
With a pink razor.
And I even saw the look on my face, like in the dream. And I was like, and that was the real. So
you saw yourself realizing it.
Right. Which is crazy. But
oh my gosh, this is getting weird.
Well, I told you.
I'm loving
it. If I go back and watch this, I'll be thinking, I'm crazy myself. So, but for everybody watching, it's not like it happens 24/7. I'm 52 years old. I've had, I've got stories, but, and it's probably more than some people, but it's over a long period of time. I mean, I think if it happened every other day, I would go crazy probably, but,
that puts you in a home there.
Yeah.
Start rocking back and forth, talking about the rosebud and shit.
Yeah. And, that's why I like shows like yours. I mean, I was hooked that first guest. I just happened to click on that one. And I used to drive by that hospital, and I saw Zach Baggins and all those guys over there. Mm-hmm. But it interested me just enough because you kind of, it's just like the Bigfoot thing. I want to understand what happened or what has happened. And the only way you can do that is just face your fears and dig in,
Oh yeah, I remember finding out for the first time I realized Bigfoot may be actually real. The way I felt, I was like, man, this is weird.
Yeah, because it makes you question other things. And when I was a kid, my nephew said something about this the other day. But one of my biggest fears when I was 3 or 4 years old, I'm like I said, my age back in the mid 70s, Godzilla on TV on like Saturdays or Sundays scared the crap out of me. And I'd ask my daddy, I was like, how far is Japan? Because he said, oh, he can't make it over here. And it made me feel better, But, something stomping buildings down. And that was, we've come a long way since then. But
we found out a couple years ago we can get here.
Yeah.
Now what?
Yeah. And
it does a swim. We got a Boombastic Media and Behold a Pale podcast, Ooga Booga, the Friday Night Dizzlers. I was messaging him. That's me. I wonder if that's what my people should be called, the Dizzlers.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Am I official Dizzler now?
A Dizzler? A Dizzle? Yep.
I'm a Dizzler.
A Dazzler?
Well, I don't know. I move up to Dazzler stage. I can have somebody else do my makeup, right?
Razzle dazzle. I was texting him last night because he runs a paranormal podcast, but he came on my show and all we talked about was comedy for an hour and a half.
Well, hey, you know what? You got to have a sense of humor.
I love comedy. That last night was one of the best things I've done in a while. I love going to comedy shows.
You hear those things. It's the best medicine. But yeah, you can hang out with your friends and laugh for 30 minutes and just be, it's nothing better than that. I miss that actually. You get older and everybody's doing their own thing, and the most fun times I've ever had was sitting around just a fire and just talking, telling stories, and
you're losing track of time too, quick.
And yeah.
Like 7 hours go by.
Yep.
Especially if there's any controlled substances nearby.
Well, I have to say I was pretty good. I stuck to the beer and bourbon, Yeah,
I want to say if any of that's nearby, you're going to start like losing track.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Go get me a beer and the sun's coming up. Like, oh crap, it must be time to go home.
Paranormal's attracted to laughter.
Positive energy. It's everything.
That explains why Bert Kreischer acts like he's possessed. That guy slays me.
I was worried about getting on here because the fact that I haven't talked about some of the paranormal stuff, I would, I thought I might gush a little bit, but try to get it, but we've got time.
Oh, we don't. There's no time limit.
Right. But it's just, I don't know. But I'm gonna tell you what it does. Just like with the Bigfoot, talking about it helps. I don't care what it is, And now that I've got past the point where I'm not self-conscious about what somebody down the street's going to think about this here, I put this on my Facebook and it's like, hey, join us. You want to hear some stories. And there's a lot of people, in Marshall County here that's heard of the Chapel Hill like all their lives.
Oh, and, yeah.
And, and I've got a story I cannot tell on the air because I wouldn't want to hurt the family's feeling of the guy that it happened to. I'll tell you one day maybe I'll try to tell it without mentioning names sometime. But
redact it.
But yeah, I'll give you just a short. I worked at the sheriff's department when I was 19. I was a dispatcher jailer, and I was on the radio one night, and the CSX railroad they was having trouble with people with trash and everything up there at Chapel Hill at that spot, and they told anybody. They told the sheriff's department, anybody caught up there, we will press charges. A guy got killed up there because he parked on the tracks, couldn't get the truck started. It was his boss's truck. And instead of jumping out and sacrificing the truck, he was still trying to start it when the train hit. So it got, they couldn't have that. So we we had a deputy. Oh my God, I shouldn't say this, but he had a speech impediment. He's a good old man. Loved him to death. But he showed up one night, and there was about 19 Vanderbilt students. They had read it.
Oh my God.
And they're from all over the country. I was helping do the paperwork. Minnesota, California, some students from overseas, and
that's the reason they're bad at football. They got people from Minnesota there, California.
Yeah, and they all got arrested, and so we're about an hour from Nashville, and like I said, he had a bad speech impediment, and he was captain of the shift. And the first phone call comes through, and I pick it up, guys from Minnesota, and talking about his daughter just got arrested. Can I speak to the person in charge? I said, yes, sir. Captain so-and-so, here's the phone here. And when he answered the phone, that we all expected it, but this guy from Minnesota, this podunk town in Tennessee, where my daughter, my Vanderbilt student,
where's this going?
It's yeah. How may I help you? Are you in charge? Yeah, I'm in charge. This conversation and these phone calls kept coming in, and it went the same way every time. They couldn't believe they were calling from California, and they thought somebody was pranking them. And and I started calling people in to listen, like, y'all gotta listen to this. When he entered his phone, listen to this.
Get in here,
listen to this. So he was a good man. He was a good person. He just it was hilarious. I mean, if I could tell it exactly how it happened, it's an awesome story. But anyway, the Chapel Hill Light, I'd heard stories. The legend goes that, of course, that somebody was on the tracks, got beheaded, looking for his head or whatever. And that scared the crap out of me, and I didn't want to go. But had some friends that wanted to go, and I went. He's supposed to go on a clear, cool night. Full moon helps, supposedly. And we went up there and stayed a few hours, didn't see anything. And I think it might have been the next fall. Somebody said, hey, let's go back. I'm like, okay. It wasn't too bad. And we went up there. Now I'm on the passenger side of the truck. And I had seen ball lightning in between these two trips. Transformer blew up and these ball lightning everywhere. So anyway, nothing's going on. There's nobody there but us. And I'm looking, and I'm skittish, because what I was worried about, I'd heard there's people pranked folks, and there have been people with lanterns and whatever, and a lot of people that say they saw the Chapel Hill Light. That's what they saw. Now, what I saw, it's dark, no lights out there, and I need you to picture this because this is so amazing. So this thing, when I got the close look at it, was about the size of a beach ball. Okay. Now you think of an orb the size of a beach ball. Light is emanating from every direction, not directional, not left, right, up, down. I mean, every direction. Right. It was a blue-white light, like electricity. That light that I saw, the lightning. And Bob, I'm going to tell you, one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life was this thing coming through the woods and those trees all around it. As that light, if you move an inch, the light moves, and the shadows were beyond dancing because it's throwing shadows everywhere. And I look, and the guy in the middle says, there it is. And I went, I'm like, oh no. And it comes up and it follows the contour of the land. It's about 2 feet off the ground. It goes up the train tracks, the gravel, gets up on top. And when it gets between the tracks, it does this. It stabilizes like a magnet will do, like something that's in between two magnets. So it stabilized and it paused for just a split second. And then it started moving towards us. Just as smooth. And it's coming at us. And I'm like,
And it looked like ball lightning?
It was the same color. It was not a light bulb. It was not a flame. It was not. Have you seen the ball lightning supposedly crossing the train tracks? It's probably fake, and then lightning shooting out of it. And have you seen that video?
I've seen a transformer, blow up and how that looks.
Right. So that white, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
That electrical white. So it comes to us probably, I don't know, 30 or 40 yards. And when it leaves, it's like it's ripped off the tracks, like some force pulls it back to the woods, and it's so fast. It's just, it's amazing. But when I hear people talk about the lantern and the dull light or whatever, I'm not going to rain on the parade, but me and two other guys, we saw it, and it was legit, and it wasn't as scary once I found out, but it was energy. It was definitely energy. And so I started looking up things and try to figure out what would cause that. And I saw...
You can't replicate that with a lantern from Walmart.
Absolutely not. And there's videos on YouTube. Right there it is. That's the one. It looked more like that, but it didn't have the lightning coming out of it, And
it's like a picture of a video,
right? And there was no in this video here. You'll have like little leaders striking the tracks and stuff, and it has sound. It has sound. What we saw was no sound at all. It was quiet.
You didn't have the
none of that. It was no sound at all, and. Yeah, so I see some of the, I have seen some of the videos on YouTube, and they're either full of it or they're being pranked themselves. I just put it that way, because the Chapel Hill light looks like that right there, without all the extra stuff going on. It was just perfectly round. Now I watched. I don't know, it was one of the TV shows, documentary, and there were some scientists that went, I think it was out west, and they were in between two mountains, I guess, and there was a river in the bottom, and they went because they'd heard about these orbs.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these legends of these orbs, and the scientists went, there's two scientists, and they saw them. They were coming up out of the valley and going up, and so that being scientists, they're like, what could cause this? And they went, tested the soil on the left side of the river, tested the soil on the right side of the river, and the water. And there was lithium on both sides and sulfur in the water, which is what you need to make a battery.
I'll say it sounds like a Tesla.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like a natural Tesla.
It might have been Elon. I don't know. That was long before. But yeah, I mean, so things can happen naturally. And so the Chapel Hill light, I have to lean towards something like that. But,
it's weird that it would just getting on the track and stabilize.
Well, here's what I think. I think it was pulled to the tracks magnetically somehow.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, like some kind of charge, static charge or something.
Right. It was pulled. Maybe the train came through and the friction, I don't know, had some kind of static charge like you're talking. One was negative, one was positive, and it came up. And when it stabilized, these trains that run on the rail trains that they lift up, right? And they're smooth. They don't really touch the tracks. I don't know much about them, but seeing that, it was just it just glided right to us. But it was ripped off the tracks too by that same force that pulled it up, took it away. But the main thing is, I can't explain the shadows. If you took, 1,000 LEDs or 10,000, and that light is going in every direction, and when it goes through trees like that, those trees the shadows are just like whipping. I can't explain it.
It makes you wonder what's out there.
Yeah. I don't know if they built houses there now, because that was I was in high school. I was 17 probably, and we never went a third time. Because I guess once I saw it, I didn't feel like, we took a video camera the first time, one of those as big as a microwave back in the day, VHS. Yeah, we had that out there, and of course we didn't
sit on your shoulder.
Yeah, and of course we didn't get anything that night, but I don't know. I mean, the Chapel Hill light is legit, but I don't think it's what they say it is.
Oh yeah, I mean, it very well could be. I mean, the way static works,
Well,
it's always crazy.
But here's the thing too. Everything's energy. So I'm no expert, so it could have been some kind of paranormal, energy. But what I associated with was that ball lightning I had seen before. So maybe that's my mistake of doing that.
I mean, if it looks like ball lightning, maybe that's some kind of derivative of it.
Yeah.
The fact that it was quiet is kind of weird.
Yes, absolutely quiet.
So, normally a big ball when a transformer blows up, you hear it for a mile.
Yes, sir. Yep. Yep. I don't know. It was strange. I'm glad
Fisher said he heard someone got hit on the tracks. What? Fish? Lost their head on the tracks. Lost their head.
That's the rumor. We won't mention any names.
Yeah. Said Roger's a good guess.
Thanks. I'm
like, who's Roger?
Who's Roger?
Oh yeah. His name was Robert this whole time.
I answer to it all. I've been called everything. But
my real name is Justin. I get called Dustin and Jason and everything.
Yeah.
Bob's just my small town hometown name I go by, so I just stick with it.
I Googled your name today. I was looking for the YouTube channel, and I didn't know there was an actual Bob doll that's haunted. Have you seen that?
Oh yeah. It's Robert the doll.
Is it Robert the doll? Yeah.
Yeah, down in Key West.
I'll have to go back and watch that. But yeah,
be careful, Robert the doll. He can haunt you from far away. You can't even take a picture of Robert the doll.
Yeah, I don't want any part of that. I say that stuff, and then I go, like I said, I go right to the edge. I'm not, we go out and we, the places where we've had activity. I told you earlier about where I was scared at. We'll go build a fire, but I'm really close to the truck, and we've got those lights that you put the magnet on the fender, and then, you can see what's at least you can see what's going to get you. But we do stuff like that, but I'm not, I don't have any equipment for measuring the energy or anything like that, which it does interest me because where we're at on that piece of property, close to a river, and I guess through the millennia, the rivers wash away the topsoil and it's rocky and cedar, so you got ticks and snakes and stuff exposed. I don't know, but it's fun. I'm not going to do it by myself at all.
I'm thinking about getting a K2 meter. I've been invited on a bunch of stuff, especially by like on this show. Everybody wants me to come visit them. I'm like, yeah, but I don't have anything.
What if? But you know what though? It is. I mean, when you watch the shows, it's really interesting. I might could do it if I ease my toes into the water a little at a time, maybe. But I would rather. Here's what I would rather do. I'd rather watch a video of you doing it, and then or you tell me how it went. But I know how it is to be. When it's pitch black dark, and certain sounds that are everyday sounds sound different, or your mind does. I had something happen to me one time hunting at a new place, and I was in the cedar thicket. But what was different about it, the limbs, they were old cedars, so the limbs are way up before you got to the first green. And I had scouted it out a few days before. I just got permission, and I got there so early. I walked in with a small flashlight and found this tree that I was going to stand at, and the sky just started getting a little bit light, and this noise started, and it was bouncing off all of those tree trunks under that canopy of green. And I didn't know where it was coming from. It scared me. So I almost had a heart attack.
But it was like a bird?
It was a damn donkey.
Oh man. I bet
I was so relieved to hear that end, the end of it where I could tell what it was. But he was winding up and
so he hadn't gone into the hall yet?
No. He was pulling that wind in so he could but that was
What's up, Brenda Lankard? So his grandson's gonna watch. Kevin, I can't imagine hearing the first few seconds of a donkey whinny.
Yeah, well, if you're in the daylight and you're watching him do it, it's one thing. You're in a strange place and it's dark, and plus you had all these trees that the sound was kind of bouncing off of, and that was almost the end of me right there. But then you laugh at yourself later, like, damn, I should have known what that was.
Dude, that feeling that goes through your chest when something like that happens.
Yeah.
I know exactly what
you're... Yeah. Get the heart up in the throat and
for like 1 second, and all of a sudden he breaks into the hall.
You're like, oh, thank God. It's like, but then you're like, how can you be so that? But then again, you look at that and you hear people misidentify things. It's easy to do.
Oh, it's real easy.
If I hadn't heard the end of that, it was like he'd have stopped. I don't know. I never would have.
You'd have had to go in. There's clearly an alien out here.
Yeah, I'm done hunting. I mean, I don't mean today. I mean, I'm done hunting.
my neighbor across the street has magnolia trees that goes around his fence, and the sidewalk goes up next to him.
Yeah,
and the magnolia trees will pile up between the fence and there. And when I used to go running in the morning, there'd always be a damn armadillo in them leaves. And you know how big how you can visualize how big they are, the limbs, the leaves.
Yeah,
and now leaves rustling loud. These are like giant paper aluminum foil leaves.
Right.
So it sounds like all hell breaking loose. I knew he's there. I know they're there. But I just every time he'll jump.
Yeah.
Somebody rattling a bag of aluminum cans.
Yeah, and
pitch black.
And you end up hurting yourself. Trying to get away from it.
Yeah. I freak myself out in the mornings when it comes to dark stuff, and I don't know why. I got to get over that. 40 years old over here.
It don't get any better.
Yeah, the walking in deer hunting used to freak me out so bad for no reason. Like during the daytime, I'm casual strolling, doing cartwheels, and at night the same 100 yards is like, oh God,
it looks different.
Yeah,
it looks different. I mean, you turn a flashlight on and a place if you know it really well, it's not so bad. But if you kind of know a place, I've gotten turned around at night. We got stuck one night, one evening coming out, and my dad was like, "It's getting dark. Whoever walks out gets the flashlight." And I didn't want to sit in that truck back there without a flashlight, so I volunteered to walk out. And I think we were squirrel hunting. I had a 22, and I knew the place. It wasn't our place, and I got lost. And I finally found the old gravel road that was on the place, and then of course every sound is magnified, but yeah, I guess it's a natural thing. And of course, when you can't see, your eyes will play tricks on you too.
Mm-hmm. And they'll quit working because they can't see, so they start shifting power to the ears and nose.
Right, and then that's how it works. But the more I've learned about this Bigfoot subject, sometimes I feel like when you're concerned, you have that, I don't know if it's a sixth sense or whatever, sixth sense. There have been times where I've had things happen, but nothing happened. Nothing actually happened, but I was so scared as a youngster, hunting. And I didn't know what it could have been, but talking to a lot of these experienced people, because the one time I freaked out, I was in a tree stand. I was about 10 or 11. It was 3 years before my sighting, but it was in the same woods,
They're hitting you with that info sound.
I guess so.
Messing with your mind.
Well,
that's crazy. I didn't think about that.
I froze. I don't know if you heard this story or not. I was waiting on it. We had a snow predicted. Tennessee doesn't get much snow like y'all. There was a 2 or 3 inch snow on a Saturday morning. It was deer season. And I'm like, oh, hardly ever get that opportunity. So I got up, couldn't wait to get out there. Walked in my normal trail. I came out into this field. All I had to do was walk diagonally across to go to my stand, which is probably 80 yards. It was about 30 yards into the woods. And I'm looking, it's so beautiful. I'm like, oh man, this is so cool. And then all of a sudden, this, I hear people say a feeling of dread or whatever came over me. And when I look back to the woods, they had a different feel to it. And I had this thought, if you go into those woods, you're not coming out.
Ooh.
And here I am, probably 13, got a 270 Winchester rifle, not scared of anything, and I couldn't take a step forward. Something had me locked down. I'm in my head, I was like, this is nuts. This is crazy. You're being a punk. Don't be like this. It's perfect. I look back in the woods, I get the same feeling and the same thought. And 4 or 5 times, I tried to take my right foot and push it forward, pick it up and push it forward. It wouldn't go. So then I'm like, I don't know what this is, but it's something. And I don't know why I did it. Just in my mind, I said, if you'll let me go, I will take a step backwards and I'll walk back to the house and I won't come back today. And as soon as I thought that, it just released. and I did exactly what I said I was going to do. I turned that right foot, went right down the hill, came back in the house, and my mom and dad are looking like confused, because they had breakfast, and I was talking, I was excited. Why are you back so early? And I just lied to them. I said, it's cold out there. Went did something.
It's too cold and something's messing with my brain.
Yeah, because and then
that's what I've heard they do. I've heard they do that same thing to folks.
Well,
you get that feeling.
It's a scientific fact that lions can do that to their prey with the infrasound. They make a sound that we can't hear, and it freezes their prey, so they can just walk up and get them. They've actually tested that. I don't know if it was some of the guys on the Bigfoot shows, Dr. Meldrum, or some of the scientists or whatever, and they were talking about infrasound. And that's how I didn't go to college to learn about stuff like that or anything. So that's how I know the word. But it was very interesting that what they did, they had a line. They brought a guy in. And he's like, oh, okay, now tell us if you feel any changes. And he started talking about how his stomach felt jittery. I'm like, oh shit. And they were.
I'd like to try to see what that felt like.
The what now?
I would like to try and see what that felt like.
Yeah, it's
for a lion.
They were measuring, but he couldn't see what they were measuring, or he couldn't see the actual instrument they were measuring with. And as he would, as the it would intensify, he would say, "Hey, I feel this or I feel that." So he was feeling the effects of it. Now, was it that? It was similar, but if you ever, I'm scared of heights. So a couple times in my life I've locked up like that, but it was because of the fear of falling. That's the only thing I can compare it to. And like I said, I'm learning all this in reverse because I had these things happen when I was young, and now I'm, researching stuff, and which that didn't start until, I don't know, when Finding Bigfoot was on about 3 seasons. I had no idea that it existed. I had the sighting when I was 14. I'll tell that if we have time. But so my son was watching YouTube or whatever he was watching in the living room. I was cooking. And a how that Matt Moneymaker, I never heard that, recording.
Mm-hmm.
He played that, and I'm in the kitchen, and I just like, what in the hell? Because I froze. I've heard that before, and I was like, Peyton, what are you watching? And he starts explaining, well, that's the how that Matt Moneymaker find. You've watched Finding Bigfoot? No, what is that? Well, they go out and they look. He said, he was young. He said, it's funny. I like watching.
It's funny.
Yeah. And I said, play that again.
This is humorous.
Right. And play that again. And he played it. And I never had told him my story. And I said, Peyton, I've heard that half a dozen times or better. And the thing was, I said, that right there doesn't do it justice, because the first time I heard it, it was probably 600 or 700 yards away in an alfalfa field behind my house. And when it started, when that sound hit me, it just vibrated, my upper body. And the volume was, I've been in Neyland Stadium for a big game, and you're yelling so loud, and everybody else is so loud, you can't tell you're making a noise because
you can't hear yourself.
Right, because everything's vibrating, right? So you can't even tell you're making a noise. You've been there probably.
Yeah,
but
it happens in Bryant-Denny too.
Exactly. Oh, so y'all have had a few.
Oh yeah.
So
they play one or two there a year.
So when you can't feel that you're making a noise, that's a lot of vibration.
It's weird.
Yeah,
it makes your ears hurt.
Right. But this was different. It was probably that loud, but it hit you in a wave. And I hear people say it feels like it goes through you. It vibrates you. Now, times I heard it, we're talking the closest couple of 100 yards out. We lived out in the middle of nowhere, and there was nobody that lived around me that I could play with. No kid, not any kids or anything. So one of my favorite things to do was wintertime, wrap up warm, go lay in the wood pile and look at the stars out away, so the security lights out front, if you get in the shadow behind the house where it's, not shining, and look up, you can see falling stars, or look at the Milky Way or whatever, and heard it a few times at night like that. But, go back and think about it. At that particular, I didn't hear it for a long time. And then all of a sudden it was just like, I don't know, months, there's months in between there where that was happening. Didn't know what it was. But during that time period, there was a company came in and they were strip mining for phosphate, and they were tearing the woods up, and they were clearing everything out. They were, I think now thinking back on it, they were destroying the habitat, and this thing was mad. And after I saw the one at 14 years old, this was about the same timing. I started looking for tracks, because I'm thinking if something that big is walking through here, there should be some tracks. I never found one. I mean, I never found anything definitive or anything. And I wish we had more resources back then to know, because I'm sure the people in the Pacific Northwest, it was old news to them. They had been out. Some of them researchers have been out in the woods, and they knew, about the tree breaks and the whatever, the sounds, the whoops, stuff like that.
Yeah, the tree knocks.
Right.
And they crawl now for some reason. They never used to talk about them crawling. Now everybody talks about them crawling.
Yep. And now we've gotten so deep into it that different parts, I didn't know this, different parts of the country or world. I know the Yowie and all that stuff's a little different, but even in this country, there are footprints that are supposed to be legit, that 5-toed, 4-toed, 3-toed. And from what I've heard from people, that the 3-toed are vicious, and the 4, but then I don't know. I don't know what to believe sometimes. But like I said, I'm sitting there telling you about all these ghost stories or whatever, and I'd be an idiot not to listen to somebody, because you might miss.
Who was it that had the 4-toed one? Beyond the Woodline. He's got a 4-toed cast.
I saw one. Do you know there's a guy called Mark Green? His name's Mark Green down there close to you somewhere in Alabama. I was watching one of their videos last night, and he showed a 4-toed cast that they had, and it come from south of Birmingham somewhere. Yep. I'm just
3-toed just sounds scary.
Yeah.
Anything involved with 3 toes.
Well, if I had 3 toes, I'd be pissed off too. So
yeah, like Ninja Turtles have 2 toes. That's scary.
Well, then you get into the subject of Dogman, which I know nothing about, but it absolutely terrifies me. And I'm sure you know a lot about that.
Yeah, I never know how to handle the Dogman people.
Yeah,
and because it's never the same as Sasquatch stories. It's always a negative thing. It's always weird. It's always like my head hurt or something happened and got broke. And yeah, you know, you've heard
horrible stories. And people that are watching, I'm not tweaking. I've got my back's hurting and I'm trying to find a good spot for it. I was looking at, man, I look like a crackhead on here.
Yeah. I'm kind of like that too. This chair hurt my back during I took a course for about a week straight, about 60 hours. And I think that's the reason I had a bad bout with sciatica after that.
That's my issue. It's on the right side. Now, Ken, I have done stretches before, you know, and it might help it out, but I'll have to do them later. But getting old.
Yeah, Diamond Dallas Page Yoga helped me.
I saw that video where he helped that guy.
Yeah.
Lose weight and everything.
I subscribed to it that week. I got it.
I did. I had knee surgery in 2012, and then favoring that knee, I had the back started hurting or whatever, and I had somebody say, well, "Go get a therapeutic massage." I said, "For what?" You know, he said, "No, not a relaxing massage, therapeutic massage." And that lady took me and explained everything she was doing, twisted me into a pretzel. She hurt me for 45 minutes. I wouldn't wish it on nobody, but when I got off that table, I could bend over, touch my toes, and didn't have a problem with it for years after that. So it's something to the stretching, and you know.
Yeah.
So I need to.
Does any of your toes ever went numb? My toes still numb from when I had it.
A little bit right now.
I don't.
Mine gradually started, you know, into your Forrest Gump into my buttocks, my right side.
Yeah.
And then it would ease up, and then the next time it'd be halfway down my hamstring, and then the next time it'd be into my knee, and so it would move down gradually. But
yeah, I went 10 days and couldn't walk.
Yeah,
and so my left leg started atrophying a little bit, and I'm just now getting where I don't get cramps when I kind of kneel down or have to do like a squat or something.
Yeah, it's amazing if you don't use your muscles, how quick they'll leave, but. That's why, you know, that's what's wrong with me. That's why I'm not so smart. I didn't use my brain for a long time.
I thought that was the end of me. I'm like, this is it.
Yeah.
I'm in my late 30s, and this is it. This is all I got. I've been too bad to myself too long. And then I started doing the little stretches, and it cured within 12 hours. But
let me ask you this. So you're interested in the paranormal, of course. Have you ever had... What got you? What started you? Have you ever had anything happen that just scared the crap out of you?
Not really. I've just always been fascinated with it.
Yeah,
it's weird because everybody asks me that, and I'm like, nah. I've been for some reason oddly drawn to it since I was really, really little. Like I've always liked ghost stories and always I hated when my dad would say, "There's no such thing as this." I'm like, how do you know there's no such thing? I would always say. Even to my friends now, I'd always say well, that's no fun. There's no such thing as Bigfoot. Well, that's no fun. He goes, what do you mean? There's no evidence. I'm like, oh, well, it's no fun if there's no Bigfoot. And yeah, I've been fascinated forever. Always reading ghost story books from the book fair, and I've always been in the woods. But for some reason, Bigfoot stuck out in my mind. I've never understood why. But it's been one of my favorite things to hear about.
Well, out of all the things that we talk about, Bigfoot might be the one thing that's and I can't. I'm talking like don't have any experience, but I guess for people that's never actually laid eyes on one, that might be one of the things that could be provable, right? If they found a body or whatever, and
if they would test the right stuff, it might be provable. But nobody will test the stuff that anybody talks about. They always want it to be a damn silverback we ain't found yet.
Yep,
I know. Try out the other stuff.
Yep, there's two. All right, so take my sighting out of it and some of the things that's happened to me and my son, but there's too many people, credible people, that have nothing to gain, that when you talk to them and they're telling their story and they're recalling a memory, and sometimes they get shaken, you know, and that's the reason people don't talk to some of us. It's like I didn't talk to anybody. It was because of the ridicule. Now, when I got the nerve to go on Mike's show for the first time and tell my story, I was nervous. I knew, but I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm gonna get it out there. So many stories from this county came to me privately, some of them because of their jobs.
Really?
A guy I went to school with.
That's good. That's hilarious.
Guys I went to school with said, hey, I was at the gas pump. He was on the other side. Hey, I heard about you, telling about you had a Bigfoot sighting or whatever. And this straight-laced guy, I'm thinking, oh, he's fixing to lay into me, He said, he's kind of being quiet. In 2008, me and my wife were riding in the north end of the county. We had to top off the Jeep. And you know where so-and-so's pig farm is? I'm like, yeah, I know where that's at. He said, we went past there going north. And had the lights on bright. And he said, Roger, one stepped out into the road about 8 foot tall. And not only did he step out into the road, he almost stepped into the Jeep. He said he was looking to his left. And he said, when he realized that he'd stepped out in front of us, I swerved a little bit. He said, he's got his top off. And he looks up and he said, this Bigfoot just picturing this, said the Bigfoot went like, oh shit, like an unmasked, he did like that right there. And I'm like, and I'm looking at this guy, and I've never known him to make anything up or whatever. And the way he's telling the story, he said, I've been obsessed ever since. He said, I've looked at everything on the internet I can. I watched every TV show, every documentary. He said that, and he said, I went to the landowner, and I won't say his name. He said, hey, so-and-so, I got to ask you a question. He said, okay. He said, have you ever seen anything weird out here? Eric, which he don't mind me using his name because he's told a few people. He said, the landowner looked at him and said, oh, I've seen the big boy twice. I know what you're talking about,
Fuck, what?
Yeah.
See,
instead of being ridiculed, yeah.
Yeah, that's just crazy. Now, you mean him? Surprised he didn't have a name for him.
The what now?
I'm surprised he didn't have a name for him or something like Frank.
Right. Yeah. And I'm standing at a gas pump hearing this amazing story.
Did it start pouring out like Dumb and Dumber?
No.
Holding the pump?
No, yeah. Like
oh shit.
What? But I've had people thank me, thanks for going out on that limb and you putting your neck out there for everybody to think you're crazy. But seriously though, I had one contacted me and he said, I want to talk to you. You can't tell anybody. I'm like, okay. He trusted me. He trusts me. So he said, when you told your story and I listened to it, I posted on Facebook and he went and he listened to it. He said, it made some things make sense for me and I appreciate it. I'm like, what? He said, well, about 5 years ago, him and his dog sitting out on the porch. They live in a rural area, but there's some houses, but it's mostly family, and cornfields, deer everywhere, power line cut, all the stuff that you hear in these stories. You had all of that going on. So
was there a creek? There's always a creek.
There's a creek, yeah. And
of course there's a creek.
And So anyway, according to David Pilates, the creeks are that's where they find the people, But anyway, he said he was sitting on the front porch with his dog about 9 o'clock at night, and he said, I heard this scream. He said it was across the road, so we were talking 300 yards. His driveway's long. He said it was across the road up in the woods up there, and he said the scream sounded like a cross between a woman and an elephant. He said my dog pissed the porch, and he said I almost did. And he ran. The dog was going up against the door, and he couldn't get the door open, and he got him inside, and he ran inside, and he's like, I don't know what that is.
That's got to sound like something from hell.
Yes.
From hell.
And it's dark. You remember what we said about it being dark and the sounds?
Yeah.
So, okay. Now, 2 weeks later is opening deer season. They've got a nice blind. I've seen their blind. I've been in it. It's a nice, those people that have the really nice, they don't have an air conditioner heater in it, but they could put one in it if they wanted to.
Yeah.
Got the plexiglass and everything, you got the lock on the door. And so he said he likes to get up there an hour before daylight, park his four-wheeler on the corner of the field way away, and then walk across the field and quietly and get in. And he got over there, locked the door, and there's a hickory tree just a few feet from this blind on the left side in the fence row. And he said he always looked at that tree. He is a big hickory. I mean, a lot of times, like his dad smokes a lot of meat, and he has piles of hickory out at his farm. And he said, I was thinking, man, I hope Daddy don't see this back here and cut it down, because I like it, So he said he starts hearing something in a low grumble. I guess some people call it maybe huffing, guttural. And he said he never heard it before. They didn't have any cows or any bulls close by. He got scared, and he said he put his chair up against the door, the flimsy door. He said, I didn't know it sounded big. He said, I didn't know why I did that, but I figured if I felt the door move, I'd turn and shoot. Right.
Yeah, you have time to pull a trigger.
He knew something. Yeah. And he said, I didn't know. I was scared. So here's where it confirms that it was something with thumbs. So he said it sounded kind of irritated and mad just a few feet away. He said that 45 minutes to daylight was the longest period in his life. But about 30 minutes into it, he heard the loudest crack, just the loudest crack he's ever heard, like something broke. He thought a tree fell, and he heard something else. And he said, I'm sweating bullets. I'm scared to death. You can't wait for daylight. He said, when it got daylight, that hickory tree had a limb he said it was probably 9 to 10, 11 foot mark where it came out of the trunk, and everything. Mm-hmm. He said when it got daylight, he noticed that limb was gone, and there was white hickory, fresh hickory, where it had been broken. And he's like, was that there before? Because, it was his first day hunting. Was that there before? And he said he looked 20 yards out in the field, and there the limb was, where he had walked through an hour before.
So it threw it.
And didn't see it. It wasn't there. It wasn't in the field. It was in his path where he had walked to the blind. And he said something broke that limb and threw it out in that field. He said, I have not been, he said, not only have I not been hunting, I'm not going back out in the woods. And he said, some of the crazy you guys talked about helped me understand what it could be. He said, it scared him so bad, and we have people like that come, that they want to tell their story. They want to get off their chest, but they don't want it out there. And I understand, so that's what shows like this help actually, if you get, I don't like the word safe space, but if they trust you,
it's not a safe space here.
No. Oh, you can say anything. I'm good, but I don't know how let them tell their story. And like you said, let the audience decide.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's the fun part. What am I going to sit over here and tell them you're lying? Like, where was the hair? Where's it?
Yeah, I saw that happen one time on a live show where there was somebody sitting behind the host, and this dude just about spit his drink out and took off running laughing. I'm like, oh, I had to poker face it like that just didn't happen.
I think I know what live show you're talking about.
Yeah, I think you do too.
I think I've heard all about that. I think I had something. I think I had something to do with it, to be honest.
Yeah,
I think I'm the reason it happened.
Oh, wait a minute. No, yes. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You did. You
facilitated it. I felt terrible. I was like, what?
It embarrassed me because that's not what it's about. And the host took care of the issue and redid it and all that and apologized or whatever. But, I've talked about and listened and talked about this so much that not a lot shocks me. Now I have a BS meter too, and I don't believe 100% of all this stuff. I'm here to take pieces of it and put it, understand my experiences and situations. Like if you had somebody on that talked paranormal, I'm going to be intently listening, because just like that comment earlier about he died in his sleep or whatever, talking to people that knows about some of this stuff, about my recurring dream and all that, it just helps. And I'm not going to remember all the details or whatever, but it just, and another thing, I thought, what if all this is tied together? What if it's all connected? All these subjects.
Could be.
It's
interesting you say that, because I think that if you watch Skinwalker Ranch, you get kind of a rule book about how all of the stuff works.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I'm going to add to my craziness here. I was about 16 or 17, had my first car, and I grew up in Mooresville, Tennessee, and I was standing out there, and it was boring that night. Usually our friends would get together. We might play checkers at the old store or hang out and drink a Sundrop and talk or whatever. Nobody was there. I went out between the store and the apartment building, and it was a dark spot, and I was just looking at the sky. It was probably around October, because there's no leaves on the trees. And something caught my eye to the left, and it was just right across, and it's an obvious UFO shape, classic UFO shape. And I'm thinking, my first thought was like, somebody's messing with me, and I'm looking in the yards. I don't know how it could have been done, but I'm looking. I don't believe it. There's not a cloud in the sky. All the stars are out. And I'm like, who's doing this? And I'm looking around, and there's nobody out. Everybody's, pretty much in bed at that time. And I look up, and I'm like, this is amazing. I've got to go get somebody. And then I'm like, no, I might miss something. So it stops. It's glowing. You see when they heat metal up and it glows orange?
Mm-hmm.
That's what color it was. I mean, it was like a hot metal, right? And it came across, and it went down behind some trees back behind this hill, which is 3/4 mile away. So then I knew it was pretty good size, and it was at least a mile away, And it went down, and it only stayed down for seconds, 15, 20 seconds, pretty long time. And it came back up behind the trees with no leaves. I could see it back there, and it came back up to the level that it had stopped at. Now, when it left, if it had gone north, east, south, I wouldn't be telling you the story. But I'm looking at it and thinking, that's not anybody faking that, because it's just too far away. And when it left, it went just straight up out into space.
Like a Tic Tac.
Fast.
Straight up.
Fast. And so, you know what my first thought was? We had been to Huntsville Space and Rocket Center when I was young. And you remember, the machine that simulates the G-forces?
Mm-hmm.
And you get in it and it's spinning and whatever. My first thought was, if there was a human in that they would be mashed on the floor like a burrito.
Yeah, smushed.
Yes.
Turned into gelatin.
And, you know, that moment stunned me, and I don't even know the words. It was more stunning than the Bigfoot sighting.
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
That's a whole other category there.
The questions. Now I've never seen another one. Well, I was little. My parents saw one, but I was so small I barely remember. I remember the conversation and stuff, but I've never seen another one. I so-called stargaze. You know, go outside. I like going out here, and especially when they have the meteor showers or whatever, because I've seen some pretty good sized falling stars, meteorites, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just fun, but that moment in my life has to be one of the most, I don't even know what the word is.
It's like a watershed moment.
It's incredible.
It's one of those delineating moments before and after.
Exactly.
It's like before UFO, after UFO.
2 seconds before and 2 seconds after, I was my mind was scrambled because all these questions, and when I saw the Bigfoot, it was clearly a Bigfoot. It was walking in an area that I've walked many times. My dad was 5'8". He had come through that area. I'd seen him coming through many times. And when it stepped out, it was very, very tall and large. And, I got to see it walk up a hill that I walked up many times, and it just didn't walk like we did, and
did the Patterson walk?
No, this is what confused me. The Patterson film is the most famous, obviously, and we had seen that we had all seen that, but it wasn't stabilized back then to how it is now.
Oh yeah, now it's studio quality,
right? And so the shape of Patty, I didn't even know it was a female, but the shape of Patty, and the shape of this thing, this looked more athletic. Slender at the waist, slenderer at the waist, not and not a V, but but it was more athletic. That's the only way I can explain it. And so when I would walk up, this grass was intertwined. They missed bush hogging. They didn't bush hog it all a lot. And when they had the regrowth, it would grow up and intertwine, and I'd have to go up this hill and step. I'd have to throw my feet, if I can get in the camera here, out and over the grass. It was a struggle walking up this hill. And when this went up, you ever seen a walking horse, how it throws its feet up and over?
Yeah.
It wasn't that exaggerated, of course, but it was that motion where the back was not, it didn't have as much body lean as I needed. So learning in reverse, the way this thing walked, I'm thinking, how does it do that? It was massive. The balance, right? Then you listen to Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and they're talking about the flexible foot. So if you step up a hill and I step up a hill, we feel pressure on our Achilles tendon, and we lean forward. We have to lean forward to get our balance. Well, my question, I want to ask an expert eventually, if I can, if they have a flexible foot, would that help that motion be more like a bicycle and less body lean than we have to do, because the foot is actually bending and sloping up the hill, so it doesn't have to do that like we do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that'd be interesting. It's like got its own 4x4.
Like it's got the track like a
Yeah.
But I don't know if that makes sense or not. But seeing that motion and knowing how I struggled to get up that hill and how I had to do, and it just wasn't mechanically walking like we walk. And
and they've got the flat foot too that don't have an arch. Right. So it makes sense they can do something different.
Right. So if we do it back well, I don't want to get into it. If it flexes in the middle, then it would be able to walk in a different motion than us.
I'm thinking like whenever you're climbing up like a ditch bank with your hand.
Mm-hmm. And
you can kind of pull yourself. You can kind of use your top of your hand as a leverage. For leverage.
Yeah. But and in mine, that I saw, it knew I was there. And people asked me what color, and the only way I can describe it, like Mike, the one he saw up close and personal, it was black. But this one was more like milk chocolate. It wasn't real dark, and it wasn't reddish. It was kind of a mixture. But that moment when me and my dad went up, he didn't believe me, but him and my mom had an experience later, a little while later, where something jumped off of a 12 or so foot bank over a 4-foot fence and landed in the road behind him. At night, he got out to relieve himself. He was drinking a beer, and after it landed in the road, he said it was 2 feet and it was running towards him, kicking rocks at him. Then he came to me and he's like, "What was that thing you saw? What did it look like?" And,
where is it you're from? Cornersville?
Yeah.
I gotta look how close this is. You got a hotbed up there.
Well, listen. Okay, so this ridge system that we're on the south part of it. It goes in a circle.
Holy shit!
It goes around and it goes all the way up to north of Nashville. And I think this ridge system, it's got everything that an animal will need to hide. It's got all the food, all the water it needs. The rivers and the springs and whatever. But there's a lot of reports and people that I've talked to, even on the east side of it, north side, west side of this ridge system. And I think they told us in Tennessee history in the 7th grade, it was called Dimple of the Universe, and you can see it from space. It's just a circle. It's weird. I think they call it the Nashville Basin in the middle. So
the Dimple of the Universe. Oh, look at there.
It's probably something else. It
sure does. I'm looking at the topo.
But I'm on the southern end.
Didn't realize you lived next to where that big salt shed is.
Where's that at?
That's where your store was.
Oh, well, we're on exit 32. So 22. You know where the Tennessean truck stop? You ever been up there?
Yeah, that's the one that has that big the salt where they keep all the salt for the roadways.
Right. I'm 5 miles from there right now.
Cornersville. Yeah.
Yeah, they're building that truck stop back. It burned, and it's going to be amazing. 2 levels. Going to have it's going to be amazing. You'll have to come up and look at it when they get done with it. I don't know when that's going to be, but
I'll definitely be by.
I used to drive down to Madison to buy cigars down there, and other stuff. I mean, I'm married now, but I dated a girl from Gunnersville, so I was in North Alabama a lot for about 3 years, visiting people. We would go. What else did we do in Madison? We'd go through. They had was it Windmill Liquors?
Mm-hmm. Windmill Beverages.
Windmill, yeah. Windmill Beverages. We would stop in.
They put one by the house out here where I'm at. I'm kind of in between. I'm kind of in between Huntsville and the Tennessee line, on the road that goes to Winchester.
Winchester, Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
You ever go
Winchester Road? It's aptly named.
So not far from Scottsboro?
I'm from Scottsboro.
So that road, so that road, it goes to Winchester. When you drop off of that ridge and it drops off at that, you're going north, and you know where Highway 64 is, running east and west in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. When you're running across that ridge going north, that's a pretty amazing sight when it drops off at that grade, 7 or 8 or 9%.
Yeah.
And you go from on the top of this mountain to in the fields in about 2 miles?
Ain't far. It goes down quick.
That's a pretty cool little drive right there.
Yeah.
I've gone down there a lot. We go through you got Elora, and
I'm close to Elora.
East of there, you have the road that comes through the mountains. I call them mountains, foothills, but
Paint Rock.
We go to Patches. I've been down there about 6 times. 50 Taters there in Scottsboro.
You go through Paint Rock, or you go over the mountain you were just talking about earlier?
I come back the way I was just talking about, dropping off and hit 64 and go through Fayetteville.
Mm-hmm.
And on the way down, we come, what's the little town called?
Huntland.
Yeah. Go south through the fields there. That's a beautiful drive.
Yeah. I'm on the other, I'm on the other side of the mountain from Paint Rock where I grew up.
Okay. I'll tell you something.
I've been over that way a lot.
Something that's interesting. You heard of Bean Creek? Up there it's in Tennessee, but it's just across the line. But so
I think I saw a sign for it. I was just up there like three weeks ago.
Yeah, you did.
We go to Elk River all the time.
So reason it's called Bean Creek. This is a little history, right? Reason it's called Bean Creek. The family that owned that land were the Beans, and Davy Crockett married into that family. His wife was a Bean. You got Bean Creek, and they lived there. So if you look south from 64. Those hills and mountains there, or foothills of the mountains, Davy Crockett hunted in those hills.
You don't want to call it Davy Crockett Parkway?
Maybe, because Lawrenceburg, they got the park over there. But I saw that sign we were driving by that you're talking about, and I asked my wife, I was like, "Hey, can you Google that and see what that says?" And she read it to me and her as we were driving. Now I think stuff like that, because of course, all of it's not the same, but those hills are the same as what David Crockett saw when he would strike out on his horse. That's I like stuff like that. But I probably
when I go to the Elk, I always turn there in Elora at that gas station.
Yeah,
and the road through the backwood makes this like compass to the Thames Ford Dam. If you take it that way, you just end up
shoot straight across.
Yeah, you go straight across 64.
Yep.
And it kind of loops, and it's like almost like a perfect curve to Thames Ford Dam.
So
instead of having to go down and weave around.
That's why you've heard the Flintville Monster then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My boss's aunt said she saw it step over a fence. It wouldn't shock me. There's a lot of open area and a creek. And
you got
the craziest thing that ever happened to me on the Elk River, because we go up there a lot. My dad fly fishes and I just drink. But if you're up there in the summertime, they got the watercress farms with their little they shoot the water back off. They drain the water from the river and put it back in there. And this is not racist and it's not cryptid related, but if you're not ready for it, it's going to scare you just like that damn donkey. And so we're up there and it's, the water and you're secluded. You're out in the middle of nowhere, the area, and you go around and I hear people talking for what I know now is Spanish, loud, and not loud, but like in a conversation next to the river. And I didn't know anybody was there. So I just hear four Mexicans sitting under a tree. And I'm like, oh, okay. I just didn't know anybody. Somebody having a conversation 10 foot from me that you didn't know were there in another language.
Scare the crap out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't ready for it.
So if you shoot across from coming up from Elora, that store down there, there's a fish hatchery or something hidden back on the north side of 64. Have you ever been that little road? They've got
probably. I've been off in there.
Probably have.
Just running around.
I was the lottery rep for 4 years, so I had Lincoln County, Moore County, Marshall, and Bedford. So I traveled a lot of roads, and I would take side roads, going to the next place. And a lot of those people down there, if you stop in those stores, anywhere in Lincoln County and around the Alabama line, the Miracle Mile, all that, I know all them.
Yeah.
So
what county is Huntland in?
It should be one over. That wasn't my territory. That was my.
Is it Davidson County?
No,
that's Nashville.
Yeah.
I just was there. It's the next county from me right now. I should know this. I just saw the sign.
Hold on. Wayne?
I was wearing a Buc-ee's hat when I saw it.
Is it Wayne?
I don't know.
No, I don't know. You get over there in Deckard.
Yeah. Or as my grandparents call it, Detchard.
Detchard?
Yeah. They wouldn't accept that it was called Deckard.
Or the British Siri.
Yeah.
I love the way I have the accent, the British accent, because I love the way she pronounces some of the stuff. You know, I've never panned for gold, but that is something I'm a treasure hunter. I love stuff like that.
Bert Kreischer said his father-in-law got into panning for gold. He goes, you know how much gold you get from panning for gold? 2 very unsatisfactory lines of cocaine's worth. Was it Davy Crockett or Daniel Boone that supposedly killed a Bigfoot? Don't know.
Maybe Daniel Boone.
Teddy Roosevelt? Option C?
I think it was Daniel Boone. One of my best friends in the world, I don't get to see him much. He's from Marshall County also. He lives in Bourbon County, Kentucky, up there at Daniel Boone National Forest, I guess, or National Park, or whatever it is. And you talking about rural, you know. And another thing, I just found out, I've gone through the Mark Twain National Forest several times, going to see my brother and sister-in-law. They've got a ranch out there. Well, this hat I got on, but they've got several hundred acres. And I just, for giggles last night, said, hey, text her and see if we can go camping up there and look for wood boogers or whatever. And she's like, come on up. You know, they're about 75 miles from Mark Twain National Forest.
What state's that?
Missouri.
Missouri?
But, you know, it's not far. Tennessee touches like 8 states.
Yeah.
So you got the land between the lakes. Then you got Mark Twain National Forest is probably, I don't know, as a crow flies, it looked like it wasn't 100 miles or better. Maybe.
Can't be too far.
It may not even be that far, because it's in the southeast part of the state. I know I've gone through there at night coming back about half asleep, and it's a spooky, eerie place to be driving through.
I used to go to Fayetteville with my great uncle over that big auction house over there he sold antiques and surplus stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm 13 years old, and he's telling me these ghost stories that I know aren't true. I'm like, why are you telling me this? But like, well, we come through Huntland on that road you're talking about, to the from Paint Rock Valley, and because my road kind of just came down the other side of the mountain, went down. But he's like, you know, one time these ladies driving down here, and she saw headlights following her, and they caught up with her and cut her head off. I'm like, what? Where did that story come from?
So just in case that happens to us, you was warned, okay?
Yeah, he told me that every time. And then we get up there on 64. I remember it. I didn't know where I was then. I just knew we were going to Fayetteville. I thought it was the other side of the planet.
when you're little like that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a freshman in high school. I didn't know where we were. I just knew I was going to get a free hot dog at the end of the trip. and he said, "You see that Indian run across the road?" I'm like, "Ain't no Indian up here." Like, if he don't quit saying there's an Indian, I'm gonna start looking for him.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, then you start. Yeah, it's the power suggestion.
Like, why is he trying to make me think there's an Indian up here?
Talking about walking across the road, I think one of my most clear. Well, we didn't think it was a ghost at first, because you've heard people talk about apparitions, see through, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Some people talk about solid. Well, anyway, my mom. I was born in 71. She had like 81 Cutlass, and it was probably 82. So I'm like 11 years old. But we're headed back home to Mooresville. It's raining. I mean, it's bad. It's just coming down. And we get to this spot at this hill in the road, 2 miles from Mooresville. And this old man steps out in front of us, and wearing like the Gordon's fisherman, the yellow slicker, the hat, not quite like that, but he had 2 buckets in his hand, feed buckets, and black, rubber boots and all. She blows the horn, slides to a stop. She barely stops in time. He turns and looks at us and gives us his look like, what in the hell are you doing? You almost killed me here. And my mom was cussing, "Wow, you idiot. You saw it. You had to see our lights, and I saw his face clearly. He was pissed. She fussed about that all the way home. And we got home. She's still fussing about it. Dad, what's wrong with you? And she told him what happened. He said, where was that at? And he said, Patsy, where would he have been going? What do you mean? Well, that old house that used to be there's not there anymore. That old barn is falling in. He said, and who you're describing, he's been dead 25 or 30 years.
Shit.
He called his name out. He said, I've seen him walk across there feeding, and he would have to walk from his house across the road. And, because the road split his farm up years ago, at the Mooresville Highway, actually. And I'm sitting there listening to him, and she's like, you're lying to me. You're lying to me. He said, no, I've seen him, but he's been dead for a long time. And she said, I don't believe you. He said, okay, I'll prove it to you. Tomorrow morning when John, I won't say it, he's passed away, but I won't say his last name. When John comes in, don't say anything and let me talk to him. She said, okay. So John comes in, we're all there. And, hey, how y'all doing? We're doing good. My dad's like, John, I got something to tell you. He said, Patsy saw something last night, and he was explaining it, and then she jumped in and started telling the story. And John's drinking his coffee, looking at her. He said, are you sure? She said, yeah. He said, she told him exactly, what, and Roger saw it. He was dressed in it. We almost hit him. We almost killed him. And John.
Turns out she didn't almost kill him.
Yeah. John looked at my dad, and his confused look on his face, and he looked at her like she's crazy. He said, Patsy, that was Mr. So-and-so. That OSOB's been dead for about 30 years or better. And I don't know how to explain that. It was not an apparition. He looked as solid as, as us. Because I saw the face. I mean, if now he was fully covered and the slicker was, the lights was reflecting off of it. It looked solid. But if he'd have kept walking, I might not have seen his skin, but he turned and looked into those lights in that windshield, and I saw his face. Now, I don't know if I would recognize if I saw a picture of the guy, from way back, but that didn't scare me. It confused me because no, that can't be, that's not right. That can't happen, but that was just one of those things, my mom, there had a guy passed away. He hit a milk truck, quarter of a mile from my house, young man come around the curve, and the milk truck was pulling out on narrow road, and he just, he didn't know it was there, and it killed him. So my mom was washing the car about country when I put an R in washing. Wash rag. He's washing that car. But she was out washing the car a few weeks later, and we knew the guy. And something caught her eye in the driveway, and she looked up and she saw him. And he never dressed up, but he had, nice clothes on. So my mom told me about it and told my dad about it. And he said, well, my brother went to the funeral. Call him. See what he had on. And she told us what he had on. And when she did the glance, look back and he's gone. And so she called him, and he said, yeah, I was there. She said, what did he have on? And he had on what he had on in our driveway.
How long was it in between his death?
Just a few weeks.
Oh,
it was summertime, so it was still summer, so it wasn't too long after. But I don't know. I've been around this stuff, and amazing things have happened, and just I don't know. I got a good one for you.
I accept good ones.
Explain this. I want you to explain this to me. I've got a guy I know. He's a local guy. Everybody knows him. He's deaf. He can't talk. He can't hear. He can't talk. When we communicate, he has his own sign language. If I use the sign language I use with him, then somebody else that's deaf wouldn't know what I'm talking about, right? So he has some official stuff, but he was here. He used to weed eat and do my yard and stuff. I'd pay him, and he did a really good job. One day we were talking, but the way he talked, he would write down on a pad,
Mm-hmm.
And he had told me when he was young that he saw a bear, where I saw the Bigfoot. And he was riding his bicycle at night, and I never put that together. Now, and it wasn't I don't want to say it couldn't have been a bear, but now I'm thinking, what the hell if he saw a Bigfoot? But anyway, scared him, and he told me about it. But then he was here at my house 7 or 8 years ago, and he's got done. I'm paying him, and he was telling me this story, writing it down. Now, mind you, he's never heard a human voice, and he's never spoken a word. He makes some sounds. He told me a story that he was doing a yard for somebody, and they were going to fix the house up, and he went in just to look around. And his eyes got big, and he said ghost. I'm like, what? Here's the way he told me. He went, let me see if I can get in here. He went, what he was telling me, he heard voices surrounding him, talking to him.
Ooh.
He
never heard one before.
Never heard voices before.
It means they're in his head.
Exactly. And okay. You're exactly right.
That's gotta freak you out if you ain't never heard before.
I know, and I I got goosebumps telling this story because I'm like, hold on. Like slow down and back up a little bit. And I'm like, you were in a house that was unoccupied, nobody lived there. Yes. And you heard voices all around you? And he was like, yes. And I'm thinking, like you did, it's got to be in his head because he can't hear. He can't physically hear. And he told me this ghost story, writing it down in some sign language. And that freaked me out because if me and you go in, or if one of us go in and we hear voices, could be in our head, could be audible, could be something. But this young man, he's a little bit older than me, but I was so glad he told me that. I don't know what to do with it, but I was stunned. I'm like, how in the world? Now, if you were playing your music loud, he could feel the vibration. Stuff like that.
Beethoven.
Yeah, he could do that. He would kind of half-heartedly dance sometimes. We'd kind of, like, all right, come on, let's go. But him hearing voices in his head and being deaf his whole life in a house. Explain that to me. That's
different than vibrations.
That's on a different level right there.
Yeah, that's subconscious. It's telepathic.
How does he know what a voice sounds like? Think about that.
Imagine that's the only voice he's ever heard.
Right. And when he did this, he was like saying it was all around him. So I didn't ask him if it was multiple different voices. I should have. I didn't think about that. Or it was the same voice, just all around him, But like you said, it was in his head. So it was speaking to him.
I want to know if he got the hell out. How fast he ran out of there.
You know what his sign for that was?
He said gone.
Gone. So yeah, he was a pretty cool guy. But yeah, that was I say a conversation that I had that just I don't understand it. I mean, if you told me, I was in a house that was quiet and I heard voices in my head, maybe you did, whatever. But with him telling me that, he had no reason to tell me that. He had no reason to lie. He knew he could tell me stuff, And
that's almost as good enough to be like a plot of an entire show, like an entire episode of X-Files or something.
That would be cool.
That's like an entire.
The truth, stranger than fiction, right?
Yeah, fill in the blank. Like that show From that just came out that I'm obsessed with now. Something that happened there. Like it sounds like something to be on that show. Like a deaf person would hear things.
That's actually it would be a good one actually. But what would be the explanation? Any of the paranormal people? I've never heard that. I've never heard that happening. I've never seen a witness that was deaf that heard voices. So yeah, it's pretty intriguing. But you can imagine. I had that pink razor look like what like asking rewrite that again. But he didn't understand it either. That's why he was going. He was asking like what is it? What was it or whatever? And I'm like I can't answer that. But and now I ain't even thought about that. That supposed bear he saw. That was that was in the same area I saw the Bigfoot, heard the screams, and he said he rode his bike all the time, but he had misjudged the time, and he was riding it at night. And he told me on the bus, he rode it on. I saw a bear, and he said it stood up and growled at him, made a whatever. And he said he did that again, but he was asking me if I ever seen a bear. Man, I never even put that together.
Are there bears this far over? I mean,
no.
Maybe one.
We had one come through. It's rare. I'm 52 years old. I know there's 2 bears that came through here. One was in the mid to late 80s. It had been relocated from somewhere, and it was going back home. And it came through, and it got to the Duck River, actually, and we quit hearing stories about it. But I was dispatcher for the sheriff's department in 91. I got a phone call one morning. My shift started at 6, and it was probably around 7. So I answered the regular phone. Marsh County Sheriff's Department, how can I help you? And this guy said, hey, this is old so-and-so over here on, what was that road? Old Columbia Road here at the corner where Webb Road comes out. I live in that house there on the corner. I'm like, yes, sir. I said, can I help you with something? I just want to let y'all know the bear's back. I was pulling out, and he was in the backyard.
The bear's back.
He was in the backyard in my kid's pool, just letting y'all know. Warn everybody. I'm like, yes, sir. What's your name? I took the information down. I said, we got a guy calling about a bear. And they're like, oh, on Webb Road? I was like, yeah, it was about that time of year. So he didn't get pictures, I don't think. Maybe the voices that they hear actually in their head as well. Yeah. I mean,
my brain's doing things right now. I'm thinking.
Yeah. So that's what I want. I don't have an explanation for it.
I'm just picturing a really good movie about a haunted area that the local deaf guy that just goes around doing odd jobs, like experiences everything but doesn't tell it. Like he's like knows the Bigfoot, knows the ghosts.
That is cool.
I'm looking up auditory hallucinations now. Apparently that's a thing.
Is it?
Yeah. For deaf people, but there's a lot of videos exploring deaf people hear voice hallucinations. But you would think if he'd never heard a voice, he wouldn't know what a voice sounded like.
Exactly. Exactly. How does a deaf person know what a human voice sounds like? And then again, who knows what it sounded like to him? He couldn't tell me. There was no way for him to explain that to me. But that was a moment too that I remember being like, oh, wait.
Hold up. Is he still alive?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I see him every now and then.
You should hit him back up and ask him about that bear.
Yeah. Well,
hey, Ricky.
How could he describe it to me though, other than what he did? And he did say the way I understood it, that it was on all fours. And then I don't know if he spooked it or whatever, ran up on it on the bike. A bicycle's quiet on the asphalt.
Yeah.
And he said he did a double take kind of, and he said, and he realized what it was. It stood up. Did the growling, whatever, the teeth showing. But he said it was a bear. But it was the same area. Same area.
Was there enough light? He said he could see it.
Yeah.
He probably saw a bear.
And the thing, you're right. And the thing is, it was dark, but
he's deaf. He's not like mentally handicapped.
Right. And and the thing is, I have not told anybody that story publicly because about the bear and about him. I've told some of my friends about him going in I said, yeah, old Mike said he went in a haunted house and heard voices, and they do the same thing. They're like, what? How's it happen?
I kind of like little anecdotes like that because it makes you wonder how it all works.
Yep. So if something will communicate with you, it's going to figure out a way, right?
Yeah. Like what if we hear the ghosts say "get out" and stuff like through our ears, but they have to like readjust their entry. I think I think here's a hypothesis, and we'll wrap it up pretty soon.
Okay.
Because I got to pee really bad, but that's neither here nor there. But that's why I like having a co-host, so I can just set my camera off and walk away.
Right, that monster out of you.
Oh yeah, the monster in my drink. But here's a hypothesis. You know the theory that I say here's a hypothesis, and you know the theory that they use energy to do things. Ghosts have to like drain batteries. They have to. That's why ghosts, unlike Bigfoot, have to do things like that to get the energy. What if they have less energy to telepathically do things, and that's why he got like the full Monty. He got like a pop, 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 pop. And we get like, get out.
Then we use all our energy, running. So
yeah, I think because the basic cable package for a ghost is to be a shadow person. that's like your factory skin when you first download the ghost game, and you have to like upgrade to like full apparition or orb.
Well, I'm gonna take this. I know you're gonna ask this question to some of your experienced paranormal folks. As soon as you get an answer of some kind, will you let me know through Messenger or whatever? Like, hey, this is a theory from so and so or whatever. Because that, and I had that thought popped into my head. Like, I've never told that publicly, but that's one of you got the Bigfoot sighting at 14, the UFO, and then Mike telling me about he heard voices in his head on a haunted house. There's those are major points in my life, I guess. That's up there with it because I was confused. I'm like, how?
You should write a book. Why are you telling this to me? You should just make me buy it for $14.99 on Amazon.
Yeah. I used to write a little bit, but I just never. Oh, I did write a movie, a scary movie, and I'll have to tell you that one day. That's too much to type.
What question are you going to ask me, or we already talk about it?
Huh?
Or what question? You're talking about like the energy thing?
Oh no, about the paranormal people. Ask them, what they thought about how a deaf person could hear voices.
Oh, okay. So I thought I missed the question.
From entities or ghosts or whatever, From he said haunted house. The house was haunted. And I'm like, how do you know? Did you see a ghost? No, he heard ghosts. He said, and then and I'm like, wait a minute, maybe he wrote that wrong. But then when he did the doing this right here, I was like, oh, wait a minute. So you heard these voices in your head? He's like, yeah, thumbs up. And then
I may clip that out and put it on there as a separate. See if anybody else has any experience with it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's possible. I mean, you never know.
Yeah,
ghosts may have admin access to our thoughts and just make us think we think things.
Yeah,
they may be able to go log in as an administrator.
If I see him again, if I run up on him, he doesn't come around much. He's older now, and he doesn't get out as much. But I'm gonna ask him if it was multiple voices or one voice. That's important, I think, for me to know, because I just didn't know that. I didn't think about asking him that. But the way it looked, it sounded like it looked like he was saying it was different voices.
It could have been like the same voice just going around,
moving around him.
Mm-hmm. Like he's in a surround sound. Well, all right.
And that's the thing. He's never heard surround. He's never heard it.
Yeah. That's what keeps you keep coming back around. How do you know? Frankie, right. Ricky, whatever his name is. It's Frankie or Ricky. I know.
No, it's
no in between.
Yeah, it is
always Edward. Probably one of those weird names like Aloysius. There used to be a crazy guy named Rudolph that walked from up there on that same road that comes off of Winchester. He'd walk back around the mountain and come back down where I grew up and walk back, and he'd wear a winter coat in the summertime, and he must have just been insane. I don't know it. Or no, summertime. It was in the summertime. Winter coat.
Oh, Mert and Aloysius, you remember them?
Yeah. Mert and Aloysius can't write. They just have to put an X. Only 3 of us can write.
You know, I didn't notice that, I think, till the 3rd time I watched it.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I laughed the whole movie. I had to rewatch it several times just to, I love that movie. My son, he was like, I don't remember what year it came out, but he was real young. And he watched it one time with me, and I laughed, and he laughed, and I knew he didn't understand everything. The next time he watched it, I mean, he was still young, and it was coming on, and he said, "Daddy, watch him. He's talking all smart and stuff, but he don't know to help them up on the train. Watch what happens." And they were chained together. Even he was young, he was smart enough to know, because Clooney's character used big words, and tried to, my mom loved that movie. And I tell, if you ever see a vehicle, Tennessee tags, it says bona fide, that's my mom. Just way better. She remembered that in the movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
I swear to God, I've seen that.
Yeah, she had a
I don't know.
She had
maybe
a
I'm just imagining it.
She had a Camaro, a white Camaro for years. It had bona fide on it. Now she's kept the tag on a Buick SUV or whatever. But if it's got,
I swear I saw one not too long ago.
But it's with a Y, bona fide, FYD.
Oh, okay.
FYD or something like that. Anyway, hey man,
my wife posted. I'll just end it. My wife posted a picture of me on Father's Day, and my friend posted he's a suitor. And I said, I ain't my daddy. Their daddy got hit by a train.
Yes. Why do they keep saying that? And see, some of the quotes I get mixed up. Like,
he can provide. He's a suitor.
It's the movie's hilarious. But like I said, you have to watch it. Maybe we need to get us some of that there reform. We the incumbents,
And the preacher said, "I'm forgiving of that too."
I don't think the state of Mississippi is quite lenient.
Like when I knocked over that Mississippi in Yazoo. Delmar, I thought you said he's innocent in charges. Yeah, well, I lied. And the preacher said I was forgiven of that too.
Oh, George, not the guy's livestock.
Oh no, we're gonna have to end now.
Yeah,
I got hard drive space to think of now if we're gonna start talking about this movie. It's been a heck of a time though. His stories have been incredible.
Oh, it's fun. When I did that one podcast with Jeremiah, I made the mistake of going back and looking at some of the comments. Most of them are positive. This one guy was like, "He's had too many experiences for it to be legit," or whatever. And I'm like, damn, it was 35 years from the sighting to when the rock was thrown at me. It ain't like it happens every 7 days. But anyway, it was fun. I appreciate it. Anytime you want to, come on and I'd be glad to help you out. If you have another guest on, I'll listen. And I like the laid back, with sense of humor. Don't take it too serious. It's.
Oh yeah.
I had to take a break a couple months ago. I almost got physically sick, worn down because I was just immersed with all these stories that was coming at me when I went public. And, it got to be a little too much. So you can go take a little too far, but
it's very true. When I first started doing this, I had like a existential crisis for like a week or two. And I started like shifting over to it being like a mindset. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And you have to just get away, clear your mind, and filter through the BS. And,
I couldn't focus at work. I was like, what are you talking about? There's a freaking aliens, man. What are we doing here?
Why am I even here? I might not.
Why are we doing? I had to drive in here. There's people in Alpha Centauri. Somebody's raping a guy from Arkansas on a metal ship.
And you don't even realize it.
I'm not even real, man.
You don't even know. You don't know. So I have said before, sometimes, now I'm okay with it, but sometimes I wished I never had seen the Bigfoot because I struggled with it for a long time. But now that, I guess you reach a maturity point where you just don't really care. People.
You can have fun with it now.
Yeah, people's going to say what they're going to say, and that's fine. I mean, I don't know, but I appreciate Appreciate it. And maybe we'll get together sometime. Have some coffee.
Been massively fun.
Next time,
yeah, I'm about. I think I'm about to. Yeah. Yeah, let me know. Well, thanks everybody for watching. This has been Roger Williams, and please subscribe to the old channel here and share with your friends. BobbyDizzle.com, of course. And we'll go ahead and end the broadcast without any pomp and circumstance. Thanks for watching.